In 2022, Florida was the most popular place to move to out of all states, and approximately 400,000 people moved to Florida. But a lot of those people who moved to Florida are now regretting their decision. And that's because they didn't do enough research before they moved here. And so this video is about 6 regrets after moving to Florida that you need to be aware of. That's what this video really is about. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Katrin.pfitzenreiter. I'm a real estate agent that lives in Sarasota, Florida. I absolutely love it here, but my intentions with this video is to make sure that you have enough information before you make the decision to move here, especially before you purchase a house here. Because I wouldn't want you to get to a point where you move to Florida just to decide that you're absolutely miserable here. And now, if you purchased a house especially, well, guess what? You have to sell it. There's usually real estate fees involved with that. Not cheap selling a house unless you do it yourself, but most people won't because it's a lot of work. So this video is not about convincing you not to Florida, but rather is to ensure that if you decide to move here, it is so much more likely that you're going to stay, you're going to love it here, and you're going to have a fantastic time in Florida. A lot of people who are moving to Florida, who are purchasing homes here, are doing so because where they're moving from, and it could be New York, Canada, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, the real estate prices in a lot of cases are more expensive, especially coming from New York and California. And so you're moving in, you're purchasing real estate here, you're like a kid in a candy store because it is just so much more affordable. But some of you don't really see the entire picture because there's so many other expenses that you need to factor in. So I'm going to give you all the major costs that you need to be aware of. Literally, just put these buckets into an Excel spreadsheet and then plug the numbers in, take the overall budget that you need for Florida and compare it to where you're moving from. I think that is going to avoid a lot of surprises when it comes to expenses here in Florida. So starting off with, of course, the home purchase, but then you also need to insure your house, right? So homeowners insurance on average right now are about $5,500 to $6,000 for a single family home. Now, if you're in a flood zone, say flood zone AE, most likely you're also going to want to carry, or maybe you need to carry, flood insurance if you're mortgaging a house. My recommendation is to call a homeowner's insurance agent, get an estimation from them before you even go under contract for a house. When it comes to taxes of the houses, don't look at the previous homeowner and what they're paying, because as soon as you purchase a house, those taxes reset. If you want to just ballpark what you're going to be in for when it comes to taxes, you can use 1.1 to 1.2% of the purchase price. If you're in an HOA community, factor in those HOA community fees. Also make sure you have a budget available for any future assessments coming up. Before you even buy into an HOA community, make sure you know from the HOA if there's any assessments coming up, and I would double check it in the minutes. Depending on where you purchase a home, you may also have to pay for CDD fees. Now, especially if you have a single family home, you have a pool, who's going to take care of the pool? You'll probably have to hire somebody to do so. Mowing the lawn, you're probably going to hire somebody to mow the lawn. In a lot of different cities across Florida, there's extremes in diversity and non-diversity. And those extremes can be very surprising to people, especially to those people that are either looking for a middle ground, or maybe they're looking for a place that's more diverse or less diverse, and they just don't do their homework enough. And so they move into a place just to find out it's not diverse at all, or maybe to find out that one of the main languages spoken there is Spanish. So I'm going to give you an example. There's a community called The Villages. Most of you probably have heard of it. It's in the center of Florida. It's the #1 master plan community in the US, as a matter of fact. But did you know that the majority of the people who live in the villages are actually white? That's based on the data. 97% are white. I'm going to give you another example. There's a town called Hialeah, which is really close to Miami, and it's actually considered one of the least diverse places across the United States, and that's because almost everybody there is Latino and they speak Spanish. That's the primary language spoken there. And so if you're somebody that's very keen about understanding what the demographical makeup is, You want to feel comfortable in a place that is of a certain makeup. Maybe you don't care, but if you do, I always recommend people to go to US Bureau of Data, because there you can see all the stats, but there's really nothing more important than going to experience a place, getting a feel for it, meeting your neighbors, going to the grocery store, and just ensuring that you like where you're going to be living. Number 3 is politics. I would say that those people who move in here for political reasons are probably going to be happy because they've left wherever they're coming from to move here. So say, for example, from California, a lot of the folks that I'm working with left California for a lot of reasons, and they really like what's going on here politically speaking. But then there's those people who are moving to Florida for all the other reasons, not politics at all, but perhaps they have some kind of a political inclination, which may not be where Florida is headed right now. You may not like where DeSantis's policies lie. Maybe you don't like falling into a lot of these conversations that typically lean much more right. And so you're really going to want to decide for yourself, how important is it that I live in a place where people are more liberal? I know a lot of people who've left Florida for those same reasons. They're heading into places that are much more liberal. Then I also know a lot of people who are moving in here because they absolutely love where DeSantis is headed. So it is a personal decision, but also one that I want you to be very aware of. Florida's absolutely gorgeous. There's so many beautiful different destinations. And when we think about Florida, typically we think about the sunshine, the beaches, and palm trees, maybe even wetlands. But what we don't think about is mountains, and that is because there are no mountains in Florida. It is very flat. And if you're somebody that lives in Florida and you found a mountain, I would be curious to find out where that mountain is, because I've been all over Florida, I haven't seen it, and I've also done my research. No mountains in Florida. If you're somebody that's used to go hiking, maybe you want to change elevation every now and then. If you're somebody that appreciates mountains, you need to have that accessible to you. Maybe you want to travel to it on the weekends, then Florida probably isn't going to be for you. Florida weather can seem amazing for the exception of hurricanes, partially because we know in Florida it's warm year-round. So take right now, it's a January day. Just the other day I went to the beach. It was about 70 degrees. And it's just beautiful, very comfortable. People who come vacation here, most of the times, most likely will come here in the winter time. And so that's what they're imagining Florida to be, even in the summertime. I think they underestimate how humid, how warm it can get in the summer, about 95 degrees, 97 degrees, depending on where in Florida. My recommendation is, I've said that before in my other videos, is to come visit here in the summertime. First of all, to make sure that you can bear the heat, but also it's in the summertime, we typically get hit with a hurricane. We have a lot of rain showers. It's a very tropical area. This is one of the most tropical areas you can live in the United States. And so with a tropical landscape comes a lot of rain. It typically rains every day, maybe for an hour, maybe for 2 hours. It usually brushes through really quickly, but it'll be really rainy. And so if you're somebody who doesn't like rain, you don't like hurricanes, you don't like heat, you may want to consider another place. Now, if you love the most tropical type of setting like you see in movies, then I do believe Florida is going to be it for you. Now, I came from New York and I did my fair share of snowstorms, and I don't like them at all. I much prefer the heat and humidity and the occasional hurricanes that brushes through here versus having to deal with cold weather, tensing up your muscles in that cold, and shoveling snow or snowstorms. Yes, we have alligators in Florida. And no, they're not going to be everywhere in Florida. Usually you have to be close to a body of fresh water. Typically it's a lake for you to be able to see a gator. I live right by a lake. I see him every day. As long as you don't live close to a lake, you should be perfectly fine. I get too many people saying, I'm not going to move to Florida because I don't want to be close to gators. I don't want to see gators. There's gators everywhere. It's not like they're lizards. We have lizards everywhere, it seems like. Gators live really close to a body of fresh water. They don't venture out too much. And so the likelihood of you seeing a gator is not very great if you don't go to a body of fresh water where the gator is in. I know a lot of people that live where I live in Sarasota that have told me they've never even seen a gator. What are you talking about, Katrin? You see gators every day. Well, that's because I live close to where they live. And so if you're somebody that's concerned about gators, don't let that stop you from moving to Florida. Just don't live close to a lake like I do. It's not like gators just drop from the sky and now all of a sudden you have to deal with them. Just don't go close to a body of fresh water, and more likely than not, you'll never see a gator unless you're heading over to a zoo to see one. So I just want to reiterate that this video was not about deterring you from moving to Florida, but really was about giving you food for thought and some realities in order to help you make the right decisions for you. But again, there's nothing better than actually coming here, visiting, staying here for some time, maybe for a month, too. And if you love the place while you test drove the area, then you know what, it's more likely than not you're gonna really enjoy your stay here. You're really gonna fall in love with Florida just as much as I love it and a lot of other people love it. So I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, do me a favor, like this video, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I always appreciate when you guys do. Take care.